Hey Planeswalkers, this is Eric again from Bane Alley Magic, bringing you another deck tech video. Today we're going into the world of Modern to bring you a deck that I call Vital Reckoning. But before we do, a quick reminder, if you like this video and you hit that subscribe button, that'd be awesome. So, Vital Reckoning for Modern is all based around Boros Reckoner, which is 3 hybrid red-white for a 3/3 Minotaur Wizard that says whenever Boros Reckoner is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target creature or player. And if you pay 1 hybrid red-white, Boros Reckoner gains first strike until the end of the turn. So that second ability is okay, but it's the first ability that we're basing this deck around. So we also have 2 copies of Spite Mare, which also has the same ability. So for 2 and 2 hybrid red-white, you get a 3/3 elemental that says whenever Spite Mare is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target creature or player. So Spite Mare is 1 more to cast than Boros Reckoner, and it doesn't have that first strike ability, but one advantage Spite Mare has over Boros Reckoner is it has awesome artwork. I mean, if you look at that, we have a red-white horse with fire-breathing snakes for a tail, and that's just excellent. You know, Boros Reckoner's artwork is okay, but he's a little stiff. It could be a little more dynamic, you know. Anyway, so this ability is what we're basing our deck on. It's actually an infinite combo deck. So the next card we have is Rush of Vitality. 1 and a black for an instant. Target creature gets +1/+0 and gains lifelink and indestructible until the end of the turn. And so to make the combo go off, we also have to deal Boros Reckoner damage. So we also have 4 copies of Fanatical Firebrand. 1 red for a 1/1 Goblin Pirate with haste, and you can tap and sacrifice Fanatical Firebrand and have it deal 1 damage to target creature or player. So the way the combo works is like this. You can do it in kind of any order and respond, and it doesn't really matter. So you cast Rush of Vitality, say give Boros Reckoner lifelink and indestructible. Once that's resolved, then you tap and sacrifice Fanatical Firebrand to have it deal 1 damage to target creature or player, which is going to be Boros Reckoner. Once Boros Reckoner is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target creature or player. So what you do is you have it deal the damage back to itself, and then it's going to trigger its own ability again. It just dealt itself damage, so it's going to deal that much damage to target creature or player. You choose itself again and again and again. You do that as many times as you want, and because it's lifelink and indestructible, it's not going to die, and it's going to be gaining you that much life every single time. So basically, once you have this going off, you choose an amount of life and you gain that much life. You're gaining infinite life right here. So normally I choose something like 500 or 1,000. You know, when you say something like 99 billion or something like that, you come off as kind of a jerk, you know. So, you know, keeping it around 500 and 1,000 is fine, and that's usually going to be enough life gain to make a lot of players fold. You know, most players have combat damage-based decks, you know, and so unless they're playing Infect or some sort of infinite combo themselves, you know, often just gaining infinite life will be enough to have your opponent fold. Like, for example, if they're playing Burn, you know, this just totally ruins them. They can't do anything with a Burn deck. They'll just mill themselves out before they could possibly deal you enough burn damage. But to make the infinite combo instantly game-winning, we can add the card Arc Bond. So for 2 and a red, it's an instant that says choose target creature. Whenever that creature is dealt damage this turn, it deals that much damage to each other creature and each player. So if you have the combo going off, you're gaining infinite life, Boros Reckoner is dealing itself an infinite amount of damage. If you cast Arc Bond on Boros Reckoner, then you're also dealing an infinite amount of damage to your opponent. You're also dealing an infinite amount of damage to yourself, but because Boros Reckoner will have lifelink, that's not going to matter. You won't die. So that is the instant win combo right there. But even if you only have Boros Reckoner and Rush of Vitality and you deal Boros Reckoner damage and you just, even if you're just gaining infinite life, you know, that is huge. That's often, if it's not going to make your opponents fold, it's definitely going to buy you the time you need to eventually get the game-winning combo with Arc Bond, right? You just do it all over again, but the second time with Arc Bond, and you win the game then. And otherwise, also, you know, you could potentially just, you know, deal combat damage and win the game if you have infinite life. Alright, so now on to our other creatures. We have 2 copies of Grand Abolisher, 2 white for a 2/2 human cleric that says during your turn, your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. So that basically says during our turn, our opponents can't do anything. They can't counter our spells, they can't activate abilities to try to disrupt our spells, so really important in our combo-based deck. Next we have Wall of Omens, 1 and a white for a 0/4 wall with Defender. When Wall of Omens enters the battlefield, you draw a card. So this is in here to just help us draw through our deck and find our combo, and also to protect us in the meantime to help make sure we don't, die immediately. Next we have Simian Spirit Guide, 2 and a red for a 2/2 Ape Spirit that says you can exile Simian Spirit Guide from your hand to add 1 red mana to our mana pool. So this is just to accelerate our mana and help get our combo off as quickly as possible. It's really useful to get Boros Reckoner out as soon as turn 2. Or, there's other spells in the deck you'll see coming up that are also going to be really benefiting from having Simian Spirit Guide in the deck to just help us accelerate our mana and get into them. So next we have Silence, 1 white for an instant that says your opponents can't cast spells this turn. So not only does this protect our combo, right? We cast it during our own turn and our opponents basically can't do anything except for activate abilities. But for the most part, this is shutting our opponents from being able to stop our combo. But also, this can stop our opponents from going off if we cast it on their upkeep and we say, you don't get to cast any spells this turn. Most of the time, they're just going to end the turn. So that's really powerful and helpful for, buying us time to get our combo and stopping our opponent from just winning right away. Next we have 3 copies of Lightning Bolt, 1 red for an instant. Lightning Bolt deals 3 damage to target creature or player, so just in case we don't have a Fanatical Firebrand, we can, use Lightning Bolt to set off the combo. Also helps with removal, and also, maybe we can just end the game with it. Often, our opponent will be down to 3 life, and that'll be it. Lightning Bolt will finish them off. And then we have Shred Memory, 1 and a black for an instant. Remove up to 4 target cards in a single graveyard from the game. And it has Transmute, so for 1 and 2 black, you can discard this card and search your library for a card with the same converted mana cost as this card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Play this only as a sorcery. So you can only transmute as a sorcery. This is a tutor spell that'll get us any 2-drop in the deck. Most importantly, Rush of Vitality, which is 2 mana. But this can also get us Grand Abolisher, and you'll see coming up there's also another spell that I can get. So this is a great tutor for only 3 mana that also pretty much can't be countered. You're not casting a spell, you're transmuting, so you're discarding the card. So, they can counter the ability. They can counter the transmute ability, but they can't, counter target spell because you're transmuting the spell. So moving along, we have 4 copies of Faithless Looting, which is a sorcery for 1 red mana, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. And it has flashback for 2 and a red. So just a staple draw card spell in red in the modern format. Really great for decks that want to fill up their graveyards. But also for any red deck, draw 2, discard 2 is extremely helpful because all the time there's 2 cards in your hand you don't mind getting rid of, especially if it means you get to draw 2 cards for 1 red mana. That's great. So we got 4 copies of that. We got 1 copy of Mastermind's Acquisition, which is 2 and 2 black for a sorcery. It says choose 1. Search your library for a card and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Or you can choose a card you own from outside the game and put it into your hand. So what that second effect means is that you can choose a card from your sideboard and put it into your hand. And, in Modern, there's lots of decks we just literally can't defeat unless we have a sideboard card. So this is actually pretty helpful as a last-ditch effort to try to win that first game against a deck that's just totally a bad matchup or something. We have access to our sideboard. That's really powerful. But also, this will help us get any of our combo pieces that we need. If we don't have a Boros Reckoner, it'll help us get that. It'll help us get a Rush of Vitality or a Fanatical Firebrand. So it's just versatile enough to help us get anything we need in the deck. Maybe we need a Silence just to make sure our combo goes off. So pretty helpful. Mastermind's Acquisition. Next we have Combust, 1 and a red for an instant. Combust can't be countered by spells or abilities, and Combust deals 5 damage to target white or blue creature. The damage can't be prevented. So Combust is here basically as an uncounterable way to deal the damage to Boros Reckoner. Also, you can tutor this up with our transmute spell, Shred Memory, because it's converted mana cost too. So you can search for Combust. Basically, Shred Memory can't be countered because you're transmuting it, and then Combust itself can't be countered. So really helpful against those control decks that are just waiting for us to cast the right spell, which they can counter and ruin our combo. Alright, moving along, we have our lands. We have 3 copies of Bloodstained Mire, 3 copies of Arid Mesa, our fetch lands. We have 3 copies of Blood Crypt and 3 copies of Godless Shrine, which are our shock lands, which we can search with Arid Mesa and Bloodstained Mire because our shock lands are land types. So Blood Crypt is a swamp mountain, Godless Shrine is a plain swamp. Then we have Silent Clearing, which is a land that says you can tap it and pay 1 life to add 1 white or black mana to your mana pool, and you can pay 1 and tap and sacrifice Silent Clearing to draw a card. So Silent Clearing is our new version of Horizon Canopy, but it's for black and white. It's pretty excellent. Sometimes you have plenty of lands on the battlefield and you would rather just draw a card, so really helpful in those situations. Then we have 2 plains, 2 swamps, and 2 mountains. Moving on to the sideboard, of course, we have Blasphemous Act. 8 and a red for a sorcery. Blasphemous Act costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield, and Blasphemous Act deals 13 damage to each creature. So any deck running Boros Reckoner or Spite Mare, you gotta have Blasphemous Act at least as a sideboard card. If your opponents are running a ton of creatures, we're going to blow up all of their creatures and hopefully deal them 13 damage in the process. We're going to deal Boros Reckoner 13 damage, which will deal 13 damage to our opponent's face. That's excellent. Next we have Extirpate, 1 black for an instant that has split second. As long as this spell is on the stack, players can't cast spells or activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. So, for all intents and purposes, there's nothing they can do to respond to this. Choose target card in a graveyard other than a basic land card. Search its owner's graveyard, hand, and library for all cards with the same name as that card and exile them. Then that player shuffles his or her library. So this is going to take out any big threat we need it to. For example, Restore Balance. Such an annoying card. If that card's in our opponent's graveyard, then we just get to exile the entire playset from our opponent's deck. Also really helpful against Scape Shift, cards like that. Just the important card that our opponent needs. We'll get rid of it forever. Next we have Inquisition of Kozilek. 1 black for a sorcery. Target player reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-land card from it with converted mana cost 3 or less. That player discards that card. Again, really helpful against Restore Balance, and these cards are also helpful against control decks. Next we have Rest in Peace, 1 and a white for an enchantment that says when Rest in Peace enters the battlefield, exile all cards from all graveyards. If a card or token would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So this not only gets rid of all the cards from the graveyards, but also stops any cards from having enter the graveyard triggered abilities. Next we have Oketra's Last Mercy, 1 and 2 white for a sorcery. Your life total becomes equal to your starting life total. Lands you control don't untap during your next untap step. So this is mainly in here to help against burn. Burn could just kill you on like turn 4 or 5. But if you're down to like 3 life and you cast Oketra's Last Mercy, you're gaining like 17 life, which is just definitely enough to stop burn in its tracks. So next we have Stony Silence, 1 and a white for an enchantment that says activated abilities of artifacts can't be activated. Obviously very helpful against the artifact decks. And then we have Damping Sphere, which is an artifact that says if a land is tapped for 2 mana, it produces 1 colorless instead of any other type and amount. And each spell a player casts costs 1 more to cast for each other spell that player casts this turn. So this is helpful against Storm, and it's also really helpful against Tron. And also Stony Silence, Damping Sphere, Rest in Peace, these can all be tutored for with Shred Memory with that Transmute ability. So that's really helpful. So that is Vital Reckoning. Let me know what you think. I haven't tried it out at the tournament yet, but this is going to be the next deck I take to the tournament. If you have any suggestions, comments, please leave them in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and hit that like button or that subscribe button. That helps out a lot. This is Eric from Bane Alley Magic signing off. Until next time, take care, take it easy.